Welcome, everybody, to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. My name is Ross Benjamin. I'm your host. It is Tuesday, December the 26th, and exciting stuff today as we're going to be discussing the two college football playoff games that take place next Monday, January 1st. And who better to do that with than Mr. Paul Bovi, one of the best college football handicappers in the country right now. So, Paulie, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I wish my bowl season got off to a little bit better start. I was disappointed with that Syracuse game. I mean, they didn't even show up. I had the over in the game, and South Florida delivered. And unfortunately, Syracuse laid an egg, a real goose egg, and it didn't go over the total. I'm not sure what was going on there, but we've seen a lot of surprises in this bowl season. Teams just not showing up, and it's confounding, but there'll still be opportunities, and by the end of the day, we'll make some money.
Yeah, I mean, it gets. How could I say this? There's a lot more uncertainties and things that we can't expect or don't expect in these minor bowl games. There's so many opt-outs in these games. Even in a game that should have meant a lot, Georgia and Florida State, arguably the two teams that were left out of the college football playoff. And that game had a lot of juice, but we're looking at Georgia now as a 16.5-point favorite, and rightfully so. When you really weigh up everything, Paul, and now the backup quarterback from Florida State has gone into the transfer portal as well, Rodemaker. So, a lot of things that we didn't expect it can't account for. And boy, oh boy, Paul, we talked a bit about this in the morning show. It just has become tougher and tougher. And this year being the toughest in terms of trying to handicap these bowl games.
Absolutely. Some of these games, the results, the play, it's inexplicable. How do you figure Ohio with all these opt-outs showing up and defeat, what was it, Georgia Southern, and just manhandling them? It didn't make any sense. And these games aren't making a lot of sense, but you have to just weed through it and stick by your guns and do the best you can. But yes, this has been a different era of handicapping bowl games during this transfer process. It's daunting to say the least.
Yeah, I went 13-4 last year during bowl season. I've lost 5 games already this bowl season. So I've surpassed the amount that I lost last year, and we still got a lot left to play. But I plan on finishing strong, as well as I'm sure that Paul does as well. I'd like to think with these games that mean a little more, there's a lot less complication involved, but we'll see. In any event, we're going to be talking to two college football playoff games today. But before I get to that, folks, friendly reminder, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Great guests like Paul Bovi, like Chip Chirimbus, like Sean Higgs, Jesse Schule, Doug Upstone of DocSports.com, and some of the best stuff we put out anywhere you'll find on the internet in terms of a podcast, a sports betting podcast. Some of you lose sight of that because a lot of you, the contingent of fans from particular schools, they get caught up in name pronunciations, they get caught up in other things and lose sight of the fact that we're picking games against the spread, and we're pretty good at what we do. We all been doing it for a long time, and you don't last in any business unless you show a fair amount of success to a high degree of success. And I like to think that's the case with all 10 guys over at the Winner's Circles, gamblersworld.net, which is our website where you can find not only myself and Paul, but 8 other great handicappers where we guarantee our picks. If you don't win, you don't make a profit, we will credit back your account the exact amount of your purchase price. And that goes for single game and multi-game daily packages, as well as subscription plans of 30 days or fewer. All right, Paul, let's get to the meat and potatoes here and get right to the gist of what we need to talk about, and we're talking college football playoffs. Alabama, a team that's quite fortunate to be there, but they're deserving of such. I don't know how you could have left them out with all being considered. And they're taking on the Michigan Wolverines, who've been right out undefeated, ranked number 1 in the latest college football playoff ranking. Alabama ranked at number 4. Yet the number 1 team in Michigan is only a 1.5-point favorite in this game. And like we touched upon off air, and you mentioned, and I agree with you, a total of 45, which seems to be a bit high when you're looking at this particular matchup and the caliber of defenses in this game. But, Paul, it doesn't matter what I think on this matchup. It's more important what you think.
You know, Ross, this is a tough one, obviously. The line, to me, is kind of priced to perfection. But what I would say is this. When you look at the Big Ten, they have a very weak roster of quarterbacks. And, you know, you can look at Drew Aller. Okay, he's not bad. He had a couple decent games in there. Probably the best quarterback that Michigan has faced is Tua of Maryland. And they almost lost to Maryland. They had a few defensive scores. I think they had 2 safeties in the game. And Maryland moved the ball. The Terps did. Tua was 21 of 31, 246, but they were undermined by 2 interceptions, and that's why Maryland lost the game. And I think this is an upgrade in terms of quarterbacking in taking on Milroe. Milroe had impressive numbers against a stronger conference, in my opinion. So the lean here is definitely to Alabama. I would say that the one thing you could say about the Tide, yes, they had a rough outing against South Florida, but Milroe didn't play, and they did lose to Texas, and that was due to 2 turnovers by Milroe in that game, and Texas went in and defeated Alabama in Tuscaloosa. But I'm going to say that the Tide, looking down their schedule, they do stop the run very well, and that is Michigan's strength. The only team they did not stop the run against, by and large, was LSU and Auburn. And in the case of LSU, it was all Daniels, who ran for 160 yards. And in the case of Auburn, who ran for 5.8 yards a carry, 44 times for around 250, 260 yards, there were 2 breakaway runs. So if you factor those out, which were 98 yards worth, Auburn ran for 3.5. And if you look down the docket, they did hold teams to around 3 yards a carry for the most part. So that's going to be their edge because that's what Michigan does. McCarthy's not great, and he doesn't run the ball. So I would have to give the edge here to Alabama. If I were taking the game, I'm not sure I will, I would go with the Tide. I would also take the Tide, and this is what I would encourage, possibly in a teaser, because if you want to insure yourself, you could cross those key numbers based on the 1.5 or 2.5 point spread. You're crossing the 3, you're crossing the 7, in what my opinion will be a lower scoring game. 45 does seem like a high number here for these 2 teams. I don't see Michigan putting up a lot of points. I don't. They're going to have to win this game, and they're going to have to win it with defense. So I think if you went Alabama and under, Alabama teaser, I don't, by the way, tease totals. So a lot of people will say, all right, I'm going to tease Alabama in the under. Don't do that. I don't tease college totals. But if you do tease in college, you get a break because most places will give you even money. So I'm not suggesting or advocating what the other team you should hook up with them is, but Alabama is definitely live in this area, getting the plus 7.5 or plus 8.5.
Yeah. So I just, is there anything else that you would couple that with in a tease off the top of your head? Because you're giving them 1/2 of a teaser. And, I know people are going to chime in and say, what good does that do me? I'm listening to you guys to give me winners. And again, not to put pressure on you, Paul, or force a pick, but I know what I'm going to hear in this. But basically, in terms of your official pick, you're going under the total of 45, correct?
Yeah, I'll go under the total of 45, and I'll also lean to Alabama. But um, I would also say, as far as hooking up uh, a team, okay. So you could look at that Washington Texas game because in terms of safety, and you're going to cover that game,
Yeah.
that is safe in terms of opt outs. You're not going to get any late opt outs or changes in the lineups, which you're in danger of with these other games. So I've looked at the other games and I have a few leans. The numbers don't come in quite right. I do like Iowa State over Memphis, but I took that at 7 and it was tease worthy. But at this point, unless you're going a 7-point tease and getting it under a field goal, it is not. So I will look at some other games in that area. But at this point, if you're playing this in a teaser, I have to say you're on your own. I cannot take Washington with the 10 points because this is going to be a higher scoring game. And you want to emphasize those teasers 6 points, 7 points in a lower scoring game when it comes to college because these games could just get away. You get a late touchdown, a pick six. So I don't want to go that route with Washington, Texas. So I would just say you're kind of on your own right now. I'm going to really be careful with these bowl games going forward just
Yeah.
because of what's been happening.
Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff. A lot of stuff we haven't been able to didn't have to account for in prior years, but it is what it is. It's an equal playing field. We're all dealing with it. It's not like one handicapper has an advantage over the other in that regard. Yeah, in terms of the under, I mean, you look at Michigan's resume. They've allowed 15 points or fewer in 11 of 13 games this year. Alabama, on the other hand, this hasn't been the juggernaut offense we've seen in years past from Alabama. Still pretty good offense. And Milroe, you can make a case he's been the most improved quarterback from start to finish of the season. He got benched, like Paul said, a couple games early on, and he's rebounded quite well. And he's a threat with his arm and his legs. He throws a nice deep ball, but yeah, my lean here would be on Alabama, and I only say that, Paul, because I just think the SEC top to bottom in terms of balance was a way tougher conference this year than the Big Ten. Now, the SEC pundits out there will tell you, well, that's the case every year. No, it's not the case every year because I've seen a lot better balanced Big Ten conferences before. This isn't one of them. I mean, you go Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. Beyond that, what do you have? You know, and I'm not so sure Penn State is a great team because they're 10-2, but they haven't faced anybody. And the two games that they had to step up in competition, they didn't compete well. So in Ohio State, I mean, again, Ohio State took Michigan down to the wire. Ohio State won at Notre Dame. You could, Ohio State could very well be in the position that Michigan is right now. But having said that, I mean, you look at Alabama, they faced Texas this year. Yes, they lost that game, but they also faced Ole Miss. They faced Tennessee. They faced LSU. They faced Kentucky. They faced Georgia. They faced a really tough schedule. And the bottom line is, Paul, I also look at teams that get a lease on life. In the regular season finale against Auburn, they were very fortunate to win. It took a 4th and goal from the 27 of Auburn with less than 3 minutes of play and a miracle pass at the back of the end zone, and they end up winning the game. And then they go into the SEC title game against Georgia as a 5.5-point dog and win the game 27-24 and get over that obstacle. So I just think the momentum to me right now rides with Alabama. And, you also look at who Michigan faced in the Big Ten title game. They played Iowa. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, all kudos to Iowa as a good defensive team. but that's not whatever they finished. I believe they finished 10-3. That, to me, they're not an elite team, Paul. So any other final thoughts on my comments?
Yeah, I agree with you. The issue is that whole Big Ten going right down the list is the word I would say is just pedestrian. Even the
Yeah.
quarterbacks, they faced several freshman quarterback. I mean, the quarterback from Rutgers was decent. The behind Tua, the best quarterback they faced was Hudson Card of Purdue. Now he's okay, but he's certainly not great. I just think that whole Big Ten this year and getting into that Iowa game, you are 100% correct. Look, Iowa went through the whole year. Give them a lot of credit. I mean, these totals in Iowa games came down to what, 27, 26?
Yeah.
Ridiculous
Crazy.
numbers. Why? Because the Hawkeyes couldn't score any points. All right, so they shut them out 26-0. Give them credit. But how much stock do you place in that shutout? You can't place a lot of it because, like I said, the Hawkeyes are just on offense. They're inept.
Yeah. I mean, you get a Big Ten conference championship game, and one team like Michigan is a 22-point favorite. That shows me right there, based on that line, that this was an extremely top-heavy conference. And I think Alabama will pay dividends by playing a stronger schedule, but that's why they play the games, Paul. So we'll see. But Paul likes the under 45 here in the Michigan-Alabama game, and he has a small lean at this particular juncture in time on Alabama. And he also suggests that if you can get he doesn't tease college football totals, but he likes Alabama as one half of a two-team teaser at plus 7.5 in this spot. So is that correct, Paul? I just want to make sure I'm transferring that information correctly to the viewers.
Yes, it is. And I'm giving out a lot of information on this game because it's a marquee game. And a lot of people, it's the only game in town. People will want to play it a number of different ways. And I don't know what I'm going to play on the game, probably a player prop or two. And I will tease this with another college team because I don't want to tease it with a pro game because the pro game is going to increase my odds from even money to either minus 120. And I'm not willing to lay 20 cents on the dollar just for the privilege of sticking an NFL game. So I'll look for another college game to put in there, and I'll find one.
All right, there you have it, folks. That's Paul Bovi. You can find all his picks over at gamblersworld.net. You can invest in Paul's 3-day, 7-day, 30-day subscription plans. That will give you the best opportunity to win over the long haul. And like every other handicapper, including Paul at gamblersworld.net, we give you our guarantee. If you don't win, you don't make a profit over the course of your subscription or daily package, we will credit back your account the exact amount of what you spent on that specific package. All right, let me get to the other game in the college football playoff. It's the Sugar Bowl, actually, being played in New Orleans, and it'll be Texas and Oklahoma. And the Texas Longhorns, a 4-point favorite and a total 63. And boy, that jumped right out at me. Why? Well, you got a Texas team that's a one-loss team, and they're facing an undefeated opponent in the college football playoff. And this is sort of rarefied air where the one-loss team is a favorite in a college football playoff over an undefeated opponent. In Washington, look, I haven't been a proponent of the Huskies for the latter half of the year, and it's burned me a couple times by not being so. Specifically, I really went heavy on Oregon against Washington in the Pac-12 title game, and I paid for it. But the bottom line is, this is a Washington team. Yes, they're 13-0, but their last 9 wins have come by 10 points or fewer, and their last 3 wins by 3 points or less. Now, Texas's only loss this season came against Oklahoma when Oklahoma scored a late touchdown in the fourth quarter. Then Texas rallied back and was inside inside Oklahoma's red zone and had a pass intercepted in the end zone on the game's final play. But they've won 7 straight since, including early in the year, they won a game at Alabama, 34-24. And Alabama, you guessed it, that's a team we just discussed, is part of the college football playoffs. And now, as opposed to Michigan, who faced Iowa, we discussed that Big Ten championship game. Texas took on an Oklahoma State team in the Big 12 title game, a team that started out really slow and came on like gangbusters at the end. But the Longhorns just creamed them, 49-21. There was no indecisiveness in that win. They were clearly the better team. Here's the other thing to look at. Texas is +9 in the turnover differential this year, or turnover margin department, whatever way you want to phrase it. On the other hand, Washington has turned the ball over 16 times, and they only forced 16 turnovers. So they're dead even. And that is a small item I like to look at as one of my elements when handicapping the game. I don't solely rely on that, but it's certainly in a big game of this nature with so much pressure on the line. Texas is better in that department. I also think the Texas defense is a much better unit than the Washington defense. You look at Washington's defense this year. They've allowed 499 plus yards in 4 of their 13 games this year. They've allowed 31 points or more 5 times. Comparatively, Texas, who plays in the Big 12, which is notorious for high-flying offenses, they allowed 30-plus points just 2 times this year. The one time was the loss against Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. So the bottom line is that Texas, to me, is better defensively. They've also better in the turnover department. And again, they've won games decisively down the stretch where Washington has they very easily, over their last 9 games, Paul, could have very easily lost 2 or 3 of those games, specifically in the last 3. So again, Texas, you look at their point per game and yard per game differential. Texas plus 18.7 point per game, plus 153.9 yards per game. Washington, on the other hand, only plus 70 yards per game. I like to look at that, Paul. It's not a single be-all, tell-all to me, but it's another just element of what I look at when handicapping the game, especially games of this magnitude. I'm going to go with the Texas Longhorns here. Minus the 4 over Washington. It would not shock me whatsoever if the Longhorns won this game by a double-digit margin, but I won't get greedy. I'll just lay the 4 against Washington. Your thoughts?
Actually, I agree with you, and I'm not a big supporter of the Pac-12. I never have been. I think they're, in terms of a conference, they are an underperformer. So I do lean to Texas. Am I strong on laying the 4 points against a team that seems to have 9 lives and just wins football games? No. But what I do see here are points. The number, I thought at 64 was very reasonable, and you mentioned 63, and if it's 63, then it's even a little bit more reasonable at this point. I think that Ewers will have a lot of success moving the ball against this Washington defense. Look, the Stanford quarterback, I think, went 31 of 48. I know it was big yardage. He only put those numbers up against Washington and Colorado. The rest of his games were very bland, ordinary, just 150, 200 yards. I think both teams are going to score. I do. I think this gets into the 60s, minimal. I think both teams get to the 30s. I think Washington will find a way to score points. Texas certainly will find a way to score. And that's the way I'm going to go with the game. You could play the team totals, but I would just say play the over in the game, and I think you'll be happy. I think you'll cash a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give you some examples of Washington defensively this year. I mean, let's look at the game against USC. Now, USC's got a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback who won the Heisman Trophy last year, but USC put up 515 yards against them. Stanford, the game that Paul just alluded to, in the quarterback, they had 367 yards passing. They had 499 yards in that game, and Washington came away with a 42-33 win as a 28-point favorite. And then let's search this a little more so I'm not lying to you guys. Oregon put up 541 yards against them in the regular season matchup. And there's one other game. Oh, here we go. California put up 502 yards of total offense, and that game was played at Washington. So this is a very vulnerable Washington defense, and they don't force turnovers. They do, but I mean, not at the rate of what you would like to see from an elite team. So I'm going to go with Texas here minus the 4. Paul suggests the play on the over 63 in this game. Paul also likes the under in the Alabama and Michigan game, and he also likes a small lean right now on Alabama, and I definitely agree with that lean on Alabama as well. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. A lot of good stuff we covered today. Don't forget, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, this is an opportunity to do so. It costs you absolutely nothing. If you're watching on your smart TV or your mobile device, just hit that black subscribe button. That will get you subscribed. Again, it costs nothing, folks. Everybody likes free. And also, if you're on your PC, you'll see a WC logo in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Just click on that. That will get you subscribed. And then I would ask you to take one step further after you subscribe. And if you're one of our many subscribers out there, first of all, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for being a subscriber. Secondly, if you haven't done this, along with the new guys, what you want to do is hit that, go into your YouTube settings and click on that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports betting channel, and that will get you subscribed. So, and that will alert you upon any of our 6 podcasts weekly going up on our great channel. So, Paul, tell the folks a little bit about why they should spend their hard-earned money with you over at Winner's Circle Sports Betting, over at the Winner's Circle, gamblersworld.net. Too many names in my head here, Paul. You know, when you get older, they all get scrambled and the days blend in together, and so do all the names. But it's gamblersworld.net. So, Paul.
Yeah, if you could remember the day. I mean, but
they all blend in together, like I said, you know. By the way, folks, wish Paul a happy birthday. He just turned 65 yesterday. So doesn't look a day under 39. So let's go ahead, Paul. Tell the folks a little bit about what you got.
We try to keep it together. That's all I could say. But anyway, look, I put my good money on these games. I really do. I bet my own hard-earned money, and if I give out a play here, chances are I have money on it, and I will have some money on the Alabama game, and it's not going to deviate from what I told you. It's going to be something along those lines, but I also post picks, and you know, if I post a pick, rest assured I'm betting that pick. Now, I went 2-2-1 in the NFL last week. Generally, I post very early plays. I did so this week. I posted 2 of them. In both cases, the line moved, and I've mentioned this before. You want to get my plays on Sunday night. You will get value in the number. I'm actually going to give you one of the plays because it's already moved 2.5 points. And I really don't want to sell plays where the value has been sucked out. One of those plays, I played the Packers and the Vikings over 43.5. That was the opening number on Sunday night. I grabbed it, and simultaneously to playing it, I posted it here because I wanted people to have an opportunity to get the same number. So if the subscribers that I have, they were sent an email, they got it, and anybody else decided to come in and purchase, I haven't checked. But I put my hard-earned money on this. I take it seriously, and I will have some additional NFL plays up this week. And hopefully, I'll do better than 2-2-1. I'm not proud of that record. We tied or pushed, I should say, the Seattle game, unfortunately, and we lost another game by a close shave. But that's the way it works, and we move forward. So anyway. I wish all of you a very happy new year, a prosperous one, and hopefully we're going to make some money here.
That's Paul Bovi over at gamblersworld.net. And you could look at the leaderboards, especially in college football. Paul's done quite well this year. And he's a real live wise guy, folks. You know me long enough now that I don't make up stuff like some other guys in this industry do. Okay? When I say something is true, you could fact check it all over the internet, and if you find it not to be true, bring it to my attention. But I haven't had anyone reach out to me in that regard yet. Paul plays big money. He puts his money where his mouth is, and he's a real live wise guy. I'm not talking mafia, folks. I'm talking in terms of sports betting. That's what you call a wise guy. Guys who make a living out of betting on their own games and betting a lot of money. So there you have it. My NFL, by the way, folks, since week 2, 55-38, had a nice day on Sunday, going 3-1. Unfortunately, my only loser was on the Dallas Cowboys. I got them at 1.5. They lost by 2. So fine line between going 3-1 and 4-0. My NFL totals, 15-6. I had the Minnesota in Detroit game over the total early on Sunday. 15-6 run, that is what my NFL totals. College football, even though I'm at 3-5 right now in the current bowl season, that's still I'm at 16-9 during the last 2 bowl seasons, which is 64%. Like I said, I plan on finishing very strong. College basketball, 16-6. The last 22, 45-29, the last 74. So good runs there. In the NBA, my NBA sides just continue to roll. I had another winner on Saturday, and I hit a total last night, but my sides in particular, 59-26, 69% since April 11th of this year, which obviously dates back to last season. And folks, if you're looking for long-term success, that's where you should invest with any one of us in the 3, 7, 30-day packages or annual subscription plans on a specific sport. And since August the 4th, I've gone 221-157. It's all documented on all the sites I'm on, including our site. It's good for 58%. My dime bettors are up $48,130 during that course of time. So that's the reason why you should spend money on me, and that's the reason why you should spend money on Paul. Anyway, folks, if you, again, don't forget to subscribe, and there's a like button underneath. You know, I just turned 66 in August. Paul turned 65 yesterday. When you get older, it does not take you a lot to make you happy, okay? What would make us both happy is hit that like button. It's just a small token of your appreciation for the work, time, and effort we put in to bringing you a quality podcast and making you a smarter sports bettor today than yesterday. Paul, I'll see you next week. But until then, have a happy new year, my friend.
Thank you, Ross. You do the same, and I look forward to seeing you next year. Same time, same place.
There you go. And for Paul Bovi and Ross Benjamin, folks, we like all of us over at the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel, us too. My man Seth behind the scenes, Mr. Jim Quinn, our owner, Jesse, Sean, Doug, Chipper. We all wish you a happy new year, folks. Be safe have fun, and take care.